Harihi Om Sadashivasamaramabham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. ओम शिष्यात्म समर्पण। कार्पण्य दोषो उपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढ़ चेताः यश्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्। ओम। Welcome to the class. And we are towards the end of the second chapter, and we had looked at 2.68. The shloka goes like this: Tasmadasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajñā pratisṭhita. So here Bhagwan has been speaking about Sthitapragya. The question that Haribhaiya asked, I think every shloka has something to contribute to that. It is that beautiful area where our prajna becoming sthitham, what is it and how that happens, is all being discussed. In fact, the last shloka is a very beautiful one, wherein there will be a small shift from sthita prajna to Brahma Nirvana. Many schools call it, they equate it, but we try to create some differences and bring about a clarity in terms of how it should be seen. But before we get there, we still have one very, very, very beautiful shloka, which is the next one. And there will be a lot of discussions on that as well. With this introduction, let us see where we were. We saw that Bhagavan had been using the term Prajñā Pratisṭhita continuously in 57, 58, and then in 61. However, in 64, he changed it to Buddhi Paryavatiṣṭhate. And then he has come back to Prajñā Pratisṭhita here. The main concept that we discussed was the two-staged way of getting the prajna being fixed in us. And that is very important. We get to know something, then we assimilate it towards a specific context that we see as the truth, and eventually evolve into that jnana. As soon as you get to know something, it doesn't become a jnana. It doesn't become your swarup. But after it gets assimilated, it becomes your swarup. There is no difference between you and the jnana that you have acquired. The examples that we have been giving is like riding a bicycle or taking the car out for the first time. You are kind of sitting on the tip of the chair and looking forward and, absolutely paying attention and so on and so forth. And you eventually get to a point where you don't even know that you are driving the car. It has just become a second nature in you. That evolution happens with the Atma Gyan as well. With respect to every Gyan, it becomes a swarup of yours. And that is the reason why he had introduced the Paryavatiṣṭhate and Pratisṭhita as one of the basic steps before the prajna can become pratisthit in you. The expression of bhavana was seen as something between the nididhyasana and the dhyana, where this assimilation of the concept that you have got as a knowledge, because English is limited by it. So as the basic arivu is the word that we use in Tamil. And then that should become the jnana. And then when it becomes the Jnana, that is when we say the Jnana is Pratiṣṭhita. And then there is a step which is becoming the Brahma Nirvana, or becoming one with that. We saw that the process is like this, where through various means we learn concepts. We learn things using Shravanam, and then also by doing the Mananam, by contemplations. We learn things through samskara. That is the first stage of learning, actually. And then we also learn by exploring our experiences. The pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayat. Through all these means, we get some knowledge. But then there are some barriers in that knowledge becoming your swarup. Knowledge as an awareness about something is natural, and also there are several means by which you get that particular information, an awareness about something. The barriers that you carry with respect to individual is raga dvesha. There are other things as well, that is natural inclination and vasanas. Right, vasanas is from the purva janma, but there are other kind of barriers as well when you think in terms of it. One is the concept being driven with some certain agenda into you. That is a barrier, because you are not given the freedom there, rather you are coming under the influences. So that can also be called as barriers. You have to overcome that barriers, and for that you have to put the effort. Anabhisneya tattat prapya shubhashubham indriyani indriyarthebhyah. All these are things which will enable you to overcome the barriers in the knowledge that you have acquired in becoming the Jnana in you. The prasad, and again, we inject the devotion here. Devotion is very, very important, where we had taken the example of Hanuman. The man, when it is attached to the devotion, it becomes much, much more stronger than otherwise following the indriyartebhya towards that. So instead of following that and dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, we will become more dhyayato towards the Parabrahma Swarupam. And Parabrahma Swarupam is nothing but knowledge. And as you explore more and more as a power, eventually getting to know of a concept, and eventually realizing that that concept is actually me, the I, that one of the way the I manifests is in that particular property that I have seen in the God. When this expansion takes place, that is when the prasad is given to you of your jnana becoming the nishtha, and you becoming the jnana swarup, which is what is Brahma Nirvanam. But at this stage, in the 68th shloka, we are looking at the end result as Prajñā Pratiṣṭhita. So once the Prajñā become Pratishtith, what is Brahma Nirvana? We will take it up in the 72nd shloka. But for now, let us say Prajñā Pratishtita is the goal, and that end result, that Prajñā Pratishtita, happens as a result of the prasad, which is due to the effort that you have put and also the devotion that you have carried in your heart. The key message is knowledge does not become a stable, useful aspect in you directly. The instrument should firstly be stabilized. Put your effort in the right place, and you will see the prajna becoming established in you. And this is happening throughout your life. It is just a reminder to say that, A, you have not been looking at it. So maybe if you just turn back and look at your life, you can see this progression at all times. B, giving you a perspective of what you have to go through, because we have somehow fallen victim to the modern education wherein having that information is considered to be knowledge. So we can also overcome that. Then again, he calls him as Mahabaho, because Arjuna is seen with so much of strength, both mental strength. He had done such great tapasyas and also physical strength. He is an amazingly powerful person. So here Bhagavan is calling him Mahabaho because Bhagavan wanted to emphasize that you can do it. And I'm telling the same thing here in the class also. We are all Mahabahos just because we are able to even sit through these classes and put our mind and help us evolve and mature in our path. So we are all Mahabahos, which is basically to say that every one of us can achieve it. The difference between one whose prajna is Pratiṣṭhita versus one whose is not is given in the next shloka. We will look at the bhashyam and then we will proceed to the next shloka. Bhashyam is very small in this case. Since the fault in uncontrolled sense activity has already been explained. That is the way Acharya starts this, that the mind is carried away and the wisdom is lost, etc. Therefore, O Arjuna, the person whose senses are completely restrained by all means, mental, verbal, and physical disciplines, and whose senses are withdrawn from the objects like sound and form, that person's wisdom becomes steady and firm. This is the basic direct representation that Acharya has given for this shloka. And further he says, this worldly and ritualistic conduct, both secular and spiritual, Vaidikaha cha vyavaharaha, is the way that he has put it, is driven by ignorance, that is avidya, the sense of doership and duality. But for the Sthitapragya, the one in whom the discriminative knowledge has arisen, this conduct naturally ceases because it is the effect of ignorance, and ignorance is destroyed by the knowledge. Since knowledge and ignorance are opposites, the presence of one means the absence of the other. So the next verse, Bhagavad Gita 2.69, we will make this teaching explicit by showing how the wise person sees differently than the ordinary person. Going into the magical 69th shloka. If there is a shloka which is of highest order in Bhagavad Gita, or in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because in the 9th chapter also you will come across some, in the 4th also you will come across. There are various places, but in the second chapter, one of the most beautiful shlokas is this. The shloka goes like this. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. Going word by word. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam, that which is nisha, night, sarva, all, bhutanam, living beings, tasyam, in that jagarti, is awake, exists in a wakeful state, who sanyami, of one whose prajna is fixed, which is the Sthitapragya. Yasyam, in which jagrati bhutani, are awake, bhutani, all beings, sa nisha, sa, that is nisha, night, for whom pashyato munehe, pashyatah, sees, one, those who can see, munehe, the sages. Consider, the emphasis is to be drawn out from the experiences that are seen outside and be able to guide yourself from within. While the eyes are closed, emphasizes the detachment from being attracted to what you witness outside. The eyes being ever open emphasizes the deep and clear contemplation. In our tradition, this property is quoted for the famous Shloka in Bhagavad Gita, this one. Let us try to go a real deep analysis into this. Bhashyam will also be more because there is a Purva Paksha and answers, etc. that will be part of this shloka. So brace yourself for maybe a couple of weeks on this shloka. Now, the literal meaning we have seen, that which is night for all beings, in that the disciplined one remains awake. That in which all beings are awake, that is night for the seeing sage. The underlying concept is Bhagwan describes, two completely different orientations of reality. That is the way that we must see. It is not like I work night shifts. I am always awake in the night. So I am a Sayami and the other one is not. That is not the way that you want to see it. The night and the day represents a concept. And that concept defines the orientation towards the reality that a person has. Night represents ignorance or non-recognition. Wakefulness is the clarity which has a true and a correct recognition of what is what. Now we can attach it to stimuli, something that you experience which evokes a specific functional reaction in you. How functional? Go back to the 54th shloka. Kim rajeta, kim asita, kim vrajeta, kim prabhasheta. So that is the one that we have to put into the functional aspect of it. Night represents the absence of true vision, is the underlying thing. No, perception. World equals real is the way that we all see. For us, this world is real. Changing the dynamic that offer experiences does not hold an independent reality. Oh yeah, the world, I'm saying it is real, but the place where there is Everest today, they say that there was a total ocean. So it is perhaps always ever changing. The reality that I am attributing, is it to the world? If that is the case, what is the reality that I am applying towards that world? Is the kind of questions that we may have to ask. It may sound too philosophical or spiritual or metaphysical in nature. I'm not talking about that at all. I am talking about the world as in your family, your work, your relationship with your children. You take anything, you will see that the aspects that you thought is the truth is changing. And if that is the change, you have to either define the truth to be something that changes all the time, or you have to identify what is it that you are attributing the truth towards. Instead of attributing truth, if you can take it as the transactional aspect. Well, today my wife is upset. Tomorrow she is going to be in the best way and she is going to do all that which is kind of making me happy. The day after, she is not going to even consider me. She is going to ignore me. Now, when I start thinking from that point of view, I realize that the attribution of the truth that I had done undergoes a massive change. And this happens in everything. So this will shift our focus from being or from seeing truth, from becoming subjective in nature, you kind of aspect, to an objective aspect. To this is the transaction. This is what I need to go towards. That huge shift will happen once you understand that, hey, I am seeing like this. I am seeing this to be the truth. And I realize that this is not the truth. This is a transactional aspect. That is why we have Vyavaharika Sad. Even that is called as truth, but it is transactional in nature. It is transient also in nature. So objects, what we think, source of fulfillment. What it becomes, that which is transactionally relevant towards a specific purpose. And here we introduce the purpose to be Kshetra Paripalana. When that becomes the concept, your vision changes. Success, happiness versus a step to the next is again a very important thing. Where, when my brother completed his chartered accountancy, and he was like in absolute happiness and etc. But then the reality came to the face to say that, okay, I've completed my CA. Now I have to go to the next, find my next job, establish myself, grow. Right? So your thing will change. Success from becoming, if it is bringing happiness, yes, good. You should experience that happiness and enjoy it. You should not resist it. But at the same time, you getting carried away in the success is the one that you need to be aware of. We don't do it, but it is something that we have to be constantly keeping in mind. The shift that happens is what is the call, which is Nisha versus Jagarti. The Jagrat and Swapna Avastha, which he has used as an example here, is basically indicating this. And we will go through a list of things that we can think, contemplate, and evolve. And it is not a complete list. Whatever has come to my mind, I have tried to include it, which things that you will always include in your life. But before we get to that, you can observe that in the first sentence, Bhagavan has used Jagarthi Sanyami. And in the second, he has used Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani. So how is it? What is the meaning? Is it like grammatically different? Actually not. Jagrat is, of course, it's an adjective and it is more of, it is not a verb. Whereas Jagarti is a verb form, is awake, remains alert. So what is Jagrati? Jagrati is not a traditional grammatical word. He could have as well said, Yasyam Jagartis Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. But he has specifically called out the term Jagrati. So what is meant by that? Correct word is Jagrat as an adjective. He wants to say that it is a verb, but it is not associated with the verb, but it is more associated from the adjective point of view, because this state is not something that is going to be there forever. Somebody, as soon as you realize it, you will overcome and you become Jagarti. You will become one who is in the awakened state. So this state of being is going to be only for a small duration, that which you are seeing this world to be real, this is to be real. This is only a small phase. It may be over multiple births, but it is only a small phase. So to emphasize that, he has created this word Jagrati as a verbal pronunciation of the adjective so that it differentiates itself from Jagarti. One who is in an awakened state is awakened state. There is no going back, coming down, etc. Whereas for Jagrati, he is in that particular state, which is this world is real, but this will eventually change. So this brings about a very innovative way of using Jagrat, which makes as a verbal connotation to an adjective without associating will remain, limiting it to currently. That is the main aspect that we call out when somebody observes it. I have come across people who even chant it as Jagrati in both the places, or Jagarti in both the places. I have heard more of Jagrati in both the places, but if you go into the books, you will find that Tasyam Jagarti Sanyami is the way that you will see being presented. The bottom line is all of us could be in the state of being responsive to, or just be not interested at that moment. All of us could still be able to overcome the influences of Indriyas, chasing the Indriyas, that Indriyarthebhya, Indriyas chasing the Arthebhya, the object of interest to those in Indriyas, and we following it. Right? So this is a transient phase, and to establish, to emphasize that it is transient in nature, Bhagavan has used this innovative word called as Jagrati. Now, Nisha, night. This word, if you look up the dictionary, there are several meanings. It represents night, turmeric, vision, dream. These are all the common thing that you can see. The root is nash. Nashtam is a Tamil word, but nasht ho jana is a Hindi word. So it is not something that is unknown to us, but that is the root, to disappear, to perish. The core meaning is non-recognition, a concealment, withdrawal of an activity. So that in which something subsides, as in having an effect of reduction in visibility. With respect to night, it is very direct. You know that it becomes dark, so there is obviously a reduction in the visibility. A good word, substitution. If you take it as a dream, the unreal gaining a reality, reducing the visibility of the reality. That is the concept. That is why the dream is also used as a meaning for Nisha. Vision. The context is narrowing down of the focus, reducing or removing the visibility of all other things. If you remember the Mahabharata story, wherein the Acharya, Dronacharya says, hey, can you see the bird? Everybody says yes. Can you see the tree? Everybody says yes. But Arjuna says no, no. Can you see the eye? Yes. And that is the focus. When you are focused, the other things lose their visibility. And hence, Nisha is also used to represent the term visibility. The last one is turmeric. This may be something that who are in the south of India know it very well. We apply the turmeric, and sometimes, you know, you go to the village, you will see the girls who are coming out, they will be fully yellow. So basically, it is something where the concealment of the actual color of the skin happens, and hence even the turmeric is referred to as Nisha. You know, in Sanskrit, we only use the property to define. It is not like in English where there is a name associated to an object. It is the property of the object and the context which creates an association. Now, Bhagavan says the path of a Sthitapragya and of those driven by the Indriyas is exact opposite. Similar is also said by Yamadharma Raja in Kathopanishad. He uses the words Shreyas and Preyas. So driven by the Priyam, it becomes Preyas, and driven by the Kshetra Paripalana that we use, or Shreyas. Shreyas is goodness. Driven by the goodness for the situation is the Shreyas. So now people can come and argue that, hey, Shreyas and Preyas can be the same. This path is something that I like, and it is also Shreyas. It is also goodness it is bringing for the society as a whole. It is true. This division happens from the mind or the way that we look point of view. When you are looking at the Shreyas, it is not the Priyam or Apriyam that influences. There is no influence of a Priyam or Apriyam. The only thing is Shreyas, the bringing of goodness. That is the only objective that I have. The Priyam totally goes out of the window. When you are in Priyam, you are fooling yourself if you say it is also for the welfare of the world. It can bring an avantara phalam, but it is your Priyam which is making you or commit into an action. That is the basic way that Yamadharma Raja will approach in Kathopanishad. Here it is Nisha and Jagrat is the way that Bhagavan has used. So basically, we are shaped by the stimuli that we encounter. The meanings we assign to them, the thoughts, the emotions that they generate, the desires which it gives rise to, the actions we perform, the habits we cultivate, the value we uphold, the beliefs we hold, and ultimately the identity and the latent tendencies that drive all of these is the stimuli, that which is igniting us from within. This is very critical to Hari Bhaiya's earlier question as well. When the stimuli is looking at it from a night point of view, while it is a day, then it brings about an oscillation in the mind, which will be a source for a pressure. When that is well handled, then it is not going to be the source of the pressure. So let us do some deep dive on this. As I said, this list is not exhaustive. I will always say that if you feel that I have missed out on something which is very obvious and which is very pertinent, feel free to call it out and we will try to include it, or we can even have a separate discussion on that. What is the stimuli? It is the external input, something that we get from outside, influence that happens from outside. Objects. When I say objects, it can be anything. That which you can conceptualize is an object. The situations is another way of looking at it. They are also objects, but we are looking at it as some kind of development and may not associate an object into it. And hence, I have called it out to say situations. They instigate. There is a stimuli that happens. Then environment, very hot, very cold, that kind of aspects, the environment. The work culture is part of the environment. Situation is specific action that is taking place, whereas environment is the overall atmosphere of that given entity. The interactions that we may have, that is also creating a stimuli in us. How we react to that stimuli is something that you may want to look at. Where is the truth and where is it that I am seeing the truth, and is it definitive or not? Have I got the clarity in terms of whether it is transactional or whether I'm seeing it as absolute, whether I'm making it subjective or whether I'm making it as objective? Remember, when your thoughts are objective in nature, it is always going to yield you some kind of a way out of all situations. It will give you benefits as well as generate great opportunities. When you are subjective in nature, which is you, I, him, that team, this team, my team, when I'm becoming subjective, that is when it is going to create the falsehood which you are seeing as a truth. You need to study, you need to contemplate and figure out where is it that I'm seeing the truth with respect to these aspects which are acting as a stimuli in my expressions, in my functioning. The second thing that I thought about is perception. Perception is meaning making. I didn't know what to put, so I just used the meaning making. How I create a meaning out of a situation. What is it? So this becomes a little internal. We can say that stimuli creates the perception. We can say that way also, but that will not be correct. You need to separate it out and see, and hence perception being called out is, I thought, very important here. When you start labeling as good or bad, success or failures, these are definitive in nature, and hence I wanted to call it out separately. Cognitive filters. Cognitive filters is when you are, you understand what is cognition, I suppose. Recognition, everybody uses it very casually. Recognition is recognition. Cognition is identification of something. So what do? We put filters in identifying things. We can say, no, I don't do it. The objective is not to say whether you do it or not. If you don't do it, good, one less problem. If you're still doing it, then identify and recognize it. The biggest problem that we have is our own selves. We try to deny that we have this capability. There's one very good example that I came across when I was talking to somebody. I think, I don't know where I came across this one. So this uh, person, the student goes to the guru and says, why is it that you are always you are not telling me anything, you are not giving me any guidance, etc. So Guruji said, "Nahi, there is nothing to do, say right now. If there is something that I will tell." But he said, no, you have to say something, and you have to be, you must be able to guide me. Why is it that you are not really doing as much as you're doing with this person, for example? I'm just imagining it right now. And for that, the Guru says, the problem is when I tell you something, the first thing that you say is no. With that negation, how is it that I'm going to even talk to you? Immediately the student said, no, not like that. And then he realized what he has done and he laughs out. That is the aspect that you need to keep in mind. When you are studying about yourself, you make a wall of your own self. Breaking that wall is difficult, but not impossible. By practice, you can break that wall. And when you see, what you see is more than what you think you will be seeing as well, not the negative. You will see a totally different eye. From outward looking inward is what my point was in writing all these things. The third one that I had written is the thoughts. When we talk about thoughts, it is not again, we can say that stimuli is creating the thought in me, which is very good. But the thoughts also stimulates you, right? That is what you need to keep in mind. So being able to look at the thoughts which are influencing you, the reactions, the analysis that you do, is the path of the analysis that I'm doing correct or not? The internal dialogues that everybody has. They don't even, sometimes people don't even pay attention to it. And unfortunately, in today's world, the sound has been increased to such an extent that the internal dialogue seems to be getting extremely squeezed out. I may be totally wrong, because there could be somebody who says, I don't even look into those things. And while they will compare it to Naresh, you always listen to this New Skip Patshala and all those things, right? Whereas I don't even listen to it. So it's you who is having a lot of sound. It is your perception. Absolutely possible. The intent here is again not to say this is there or this is not there. These are all the possible places where you may want to consider what is Nisha and what is Jagrati in relation to who is a Sanyami versus who is a normal or non-Sanyami. Coming back to the fourth one, emotions. This is like likes and dislikes, attractions and aversions, fear, anger, joy, etc. There will be a lot that we will be speaking about it, but keep in mind, this is again something that makes you act. And where is it that I am putting the truth? How long is it? I like something and I think that I always like it. No, not necessary, right? Particularly from Dr. Vandana, I love to eat that gulab jamun. No, it doesn't mean I will eat gulab jamun every day. That is not. Am I going to have the same feeling at all times? No. Okay, this is something that I want to register into myself. Right? Okay, the likes and dislikes are changing. When I like, I should like it the fullest. And when I have no like or dislike towards something, I must be as neutral as ever. I should not get compelled, driven, and all those things. That is something that you need to measure into yourselves. Desires, what I want, what is it that I resist, what are my expectations, and so on. Expressions and actions. Here we can talk about speech, behavior, decisions. All these are again that which is coming back into you to attack. And in this, how is it that I am seeing the truth and aligning myself to that? Habits and practices, conditioning, lifestyle, the repeated patterns. Repeated patterns are very, very good. You become a master at things which you repeat. But if you become mechanical at it, that becoming mastery is fully gone. Keep that in mind. Anything that is said here should not be seen as negative. All these are there in our life. How am I looking at it is the question that you may want to ponder. Don't ponder over this question forever. Don't make it a pain, make it a fun. And sometimes, we can even, wherever you are talking to, you can casually talk about it. If you're going on a train journey, I'm talking about those days in India, you go on a long train journey, you have a lot of time in hand, right? invest that particular time in this kind of a game. When we meet with the teams, you can think in terms of it. But the idea is to see how much inward we can look at on all these factors. Values, what we prioritize, what is considered right or wrong, the guiding principles. Beliefs, what is it about the self? I am this kind of a person. I am successful. I am parent. I am knowledgeable, etc. What is it about others that I have? This is how others are towards me. This is how others are in their nature. This is how the world works. This last one is something very, very important. This I am knowledgeable, etc. I wrote later after when I was writing this. This is how the world works kind of struck me as something very important to convey. We make this mistake. We define the functioning of the world when the world itself has no definition of the functioning of the world. We try to say that, man, they are going to come after me. This is what the way that it is. The government is totally bad. The tax system is absolutely ridiculous. Right? Now we are kind of making all these things. These kind of thoughts will be in two forms. One is Nisha and another is Jagarti. Find out which is what. What is the differentiator? Subjective versus objective. The last one is more Vedantic or Vedic in nature, which is Vasana. Vasanas are stored impressions. It is coming out of the Prarabdha. For this, we will talk about what is creation. We have, Sanjita karma. From there, we take a small prarabdha karma and take birth. And then we do karma here, which will add on the agami karma, and the karma phala discharges it. So this is a cycle. In that, the prarabdha, whatever you have taken as the karma for taking birth here, will bring vasanas into you. That is why when I go into the store, I am perhaps attracted towards regular Coke, whereas you are attracted towards something else. There are so many products. Why is it that I don't get attracted to all? They are all kind of indicators of the vasanas, subconscious tendencies. This is the prarabdha plus samskara. For this also we give this story, which is supposed to be a real one. There is a great philosopher by name J. Krishnamurti, and he had a student or a disciple. It's a student basically. And J. Krishnamurti was a non-believer in God. So he continuously, the person who follows J. Krishnamurti, without even perhaps knowing what he was trying to say or what is the context, he was always saying there is no God. Once he had a heart attack and he was in the hospital. And a friend went to visit him and he was sitting there and saying Rama, 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 Rama. He asked, hey man, you don't believe in God. Why are you doing this? He said, get out. Don't come here. Don't even disturb me. Right? You don't understand how severe or how serious I am. So he goes away. After some times, he gets all right and he goes out for a walk and comes across a friend again. And again, he starts saying there is no God, etc. This incident is quoted to exactly emphasize this one. The subconscious tendencies are based both on prarabdham and samskara. The samskara is something that your parents taught you when you were very, very young. That will continue throughout your life. Those values will continue throughout your life when it is needed. Whether you like it or not, it will naturally emanate out of you. That is the samskara. That is why when I said subconscious tendencies, we need to be aware of those subconscious tendencies as well. All these are possible when you do dhyanam. Conditioning across time. This is the agami karma. As you are doing karma, you are getting conditioned and you start thinking from that point of view and it keeps going. This could be a good list for you to think in terms of what is this concept of Jagrati and Nisha, and how you want to evaluate the concept that we initially discussed to say how to differentiate between the day and the night is something that I leave it to you. You can make mistakes. You can seek clarifications, be it from me or even among yourself. But being able to start at least thinking will will become a big transformation in you, in your life, and in the way that you look at the world, in the way that you look at yourself, in the way that you see the duality, and in the way that the duality immerses into one Advaita. So it is a very valuable thing. I thought I will give it more as a possibility for you to explore in this lesson or in this class. So we have, this is just a summary of what I have written: external, internal processing, expressions, and deep structure, and what are all the layers and how it is done. So I will, maybe after this class, after this chapter is over, I will create the PDF and I will send it across to you with all this slides, which is close to about 1,000 slides, I think, which will include first chapter and second chapter, and I will start working on the third chapter. But then you can also go through it and keep it as a reference for you if you like it. Going further, let us analyze each of the defining factors and relate it to some story. Again, my idea was to say that you can use the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas to review on all these things. And that is why I said, okay, let us introduce a small story session, which makes the class also fun-filled. And we can also have a perspective of how this entire stuff is or should be seen. And because this is going to be story-based, I thought we can take a break here. And when we meet in the next class, we will once again go through the concepts that we just learned with respect to some of the stories that are there in our Puranas and other places, so that it puts a perspective into you in terms of how we can analyze ourselves under the guidance and the advice of Bhagavan on this shloka. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune.
Guruji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, what a great class, Guruji. I don't know how you read my thinking and my question coming up. You described about success and happiness so coincidentally. So thank you. I'm going to listen that back again because I was thinking more towards asking that question today. You might have seen my chat.
I
Like,
haven't
uh,
actually.
like it's more towards, I came out of the board meeting today, not that happy. And then more towards, I was thinking, what is the success defines versus then happiness? So you have described so well today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we will take a leave here. Wow, that is a couple of minutes earlier. We will conclude our class today with the Shanti Path. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Actually, Hari Bhaiya, I had wanted to tell something
Mm,
as an answer to your question, I think,
yeah,
but you were not there in the class, so I was just holding it back, and today I totally missed it, just
sure.
slipped off my mind. Uh, One thing that I wanted to call out for
Yeah.
the previous question as to why is it that we get that pressure, why is it that we feel disturbed, right? When you look at it from that point of view, the answer is one of them that lies in the answer is how the identity plays in you. And if you refer back to a couple of classes before, you will see that there is a place where we did speak about identity as well. The perspective that I wanted to give was to say that more often what happens is the situation creates an identity of us. And thereafter, we start losing our own identity and try to live up to the imaginary identity that has been put on you. Let us take today, I don't know anything about software, and the teams are calling me, or the company is calling me an architect. And so I have to scale up to the level of architect and I have to push myself. If I have that thought, it will automatically bring about a pressure. Me associating with an identity is very important. That association of your identity is the reason why you are where you are today. But embracing an identity which is imaginary in nature is the one which pulls us down. So in chapter 7, Bhagwan will say that a realized person will have an awareness about various concepts, Brahma, Adhyatmam, etc. And 8th chapter will start with a question from Arjuna that he will say, Kim tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, is the way that he will start the questioning. For that, the Adhyatmam is defined as Swabhavaha, that your true nature. I think in the class I was giving an example of copper wire trying to act like a wood, just because it has been shaped into a wooden form. The identity of I being the copper wire in this example is very essential. As a jnani, that will be there as an awareness in you. But just because I have been carved and made or melted and put into a form of a tree, if I try to become a tree, then that is the downside. That will be the place which will ignite the sense of pressure into one person. Hence, one thing that in the Nisha and Jagarthi that we can add is how I identify myself. I think I have already done that, but I wanted to call it out because I had this as one of the answers to be given to you, then totally missed it out.
Great,
So hope
Guruji.
it makes sense.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it does. Thank you, Guruji.
Then we will take leave today and we will connect again next week.